Hi folks, how you doing? I'm Ross Minton. This is Grow Your Own Life. Please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm down the allotment today. I'm kind of dodging thunderstorms. Yes, I want to get a few things done before another storm hits. Apparently we're going to have one in an hour or so. I thought I'd give you a quick tour because I haven't really done a tour for a bit. I've done a few posts and stuff about, watering and a few tips and this, that and the other, but we all know we all like a good tour, so let's get to it, shall we? I've also picked some blackberries today. Blackberries? No, I haven't, Ross. You haven't picked blackberries at all. You've picked some black currants. Yes, I have. And a few goosegogs. Gooseberries, yeah. They're not quite ready yet. They need another week or two. And some of the blackberries. God, this is what happens when you stay up late celebrating Liverpool winning the league. Yes. So I picked some black currants, and they're not too bad, but they need another week too. Some of them are a bit underdone, but I'll make some compote or some kind of pudding or a tart or something like that to use them up. So put plenty of sugar in there and they'll be fine. But I've eaten a few and they're a little bit sour, but they're nice still, if that makes sense. They're nice and sour, they're not horribly sour. Anyway, I'll get to it. I'll give you a tour. So the plot's really coming along now. As you all know, I like to grow everything pretty wild. So we've got wildflowers popping up absolutely everywhere now, which is good. We've got burdock, we've got borage, calendula, we've got the oilseed rape stuff, poppies, we've got some cosmos there. What else have we got? Well, we've got some radishes at the back that I've let go to seed because the bees really love those radish flowers. I don't know what we've just had rain, so there's not a lot of bees about at the moment. They've obviously all darted back into their nests. But normally, radish flowers, bees love them. They just flock to them. So I always let a few radishes go to seed and let them pop over everywhere. And if you go and have a ferret down there, you can actually see some big woody radishes that have actually grown and they've self-set from last year. So all that in front of you is the fruit bushes covered over. This is where I've had some of the black currants from. Big crop of black currants. My neighbour down there in the corner, she gave me the bushes last year. So she dug them up, put them in my greenhouse in the winter, and I planted them out. Well, you probably remember I planted them out January, February time, and they've got monster crop of blackberries on it. Blackberries? No, Ross, they're not blackberries. Monster crop of black currants on it, which is crazy considering they were only planted recently. Madness, but thank you very much for those. The apple tree's doing well. I've trimmed around there now. Well, when I say trimmed, I did it by hand because I don't have a strimmer. Unfortunately, there's a few tools that I don't have. And to be fair, with me not doing football at the moment because of lockdown, the bit of extra exercise did me good. But I tell you what, cutting round with a pair of hedge cutters, long grass and stuff, was hard work. But I'm going to get some more bark to put around there. But as you can see, got plenty of apples coming along. They're not as big as other people's apples, which is unusual because this is more of a summer apple tree. They normally romp away, but maybe I'll have a later crop this year, I don't know. Potatoes are doing good. We harvested a root. Oh, camera won't focus, there we go. Potatoes are doing good. We harvested a root the other day. I'll put the footage in. We didn't have a lot, it was just a check because I mixed up my first earlies and couldn't remember which ones were which. So basically, cutting a long story short, I grew my potatoes in pots, and I very rarely label anything down my allotment. I just can't be bothered, basically. I just kind of do these video diaries and kind of guess it and kind of remember stuff. Anyway, I put my first earlies one side and then I put my main crop the other side in little black pots. Well, it's not too little, but 20-litre pots. Anyway, I then had to move them around when I was doing some watering, and I've kind of forgotten which one were my first earlies. Yeah, we all do it. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, I've been looking at the plants and I've been looking at the flowers, because a good way to check with your potatoes is, once they've flowered, you can test them, see if you've got spuds, and then once the flowers have died, that's normally obviously when you harvest potatoes. A lot of people obviously first earlies will even get them before the flowers, but I like to go by the flowers as a bit of a method really. So once I see flowers, I will get a root, I'll pull it up, I'll have a nose, see what I've got in there, and then judge how long to leave the rest of the potatoes. So I have a pot down here with a flower on it. I'm going to pull it out, we're going to have a look what's inside, and hopefully there's enough to make a potato salad. So I'll be happy with that. So there it is, there's the bucket. As you can see, it's about that 20-30 litre bucket. It's got one tuber seed potato in there. It's the first one to flower. It's not a fat lot of foliage, but that doesn't mean anything. Sometimes you can have loads of foliage and have nothing under the soil. Because of the compost situation, I covered it with straw earlier on in the year to block out as much light as possible, because obviously compost has been rare this year to get hold of because of lockdown. So we're going to pull that out and we'll see what we've got. So that's it then. As a test route, just goes to show that I've got at least a couple more weeks minimum. If you remember, I put my big Yukon Gold potatoes, which I really like, they're really tasty, in the big old white drums, and there's 5 plants in there, and they're doing really well, and they should be good. But I think I've mentioned this before, I live in Shropshire. It's a potato. It's a potato growing area, so I can go to any farm shop and I can get £55 bag of potatoes for about £5. So this is why I don't grow too many potatoes, because potatoes in Shropshire, even when we have potato shortages, they're pretty cheap around here, because you just get the seconds that don't go off to the crisp and chip factories, and there's nothing wrong with second potatoes. They're normally seconds because they're too damn big and they won't go through the machines properly. So yeah, here's the lettuce for the chickens. Which obviously I've just given them. I pick away at it and it just grows for them. I have lettuce growing at home, and if I desperately need any, I will harvest some of the better leaves from there. But to be fair, it's mainly the salads I grow down here are mainly for the chickens, because I like it fresh. So at home I can walk into my back garden, just grab lettuce, take it back into the kitchen. Whereas here I'd have to pick it just before I left, and I know it's not far. It's about a 10-minute drive home, and it can quickly wilt in the heat of the car and stuff like that. These are all the yellow raspberries that have now popped up everywhere, which I'm happy about. I moved these tyres. I don't grow in tyres anymore after reading an article about how dangerous they were for leaching out chemicals. So I've moved them from there. They were only there for about 12 months or so, so I'm not too worried about that chemical wise. But I have put the tyres here, and I'm just going to have them for flowers. Just basically I can fill them up with well, I see I've put weeds in there and old compost, and I'm just going to fill them with wildflowers and calendula. And there's a few nooks and crannies down there that basically beans, frogs and stuff can get in, and that area of the allotment has no edibles in whatsoever. So I'm happy personally with the tyres being there. Some of you will probably disagree. I know some of you grow food in tyres, which please don't. Please don't get on the articles. I mean, like I said, I used to, and then I read an article and I completely stopped. But flowers in tyres, no issue. Don't intend on eating anything around this area, so I'm more than happy. And when I notice those tyres starting to disintegrate, which I'm not, you can just run your finger around the edges and see what they're like. I will get rid of, but at the moment they're fine and they can stay there for a year or two and be for flowers. So yeah, I'm waiting for the yellow raspberries to pop up, as in flower and stuff, because they were really tasty last year. I'm just hoping all these flower. Maybe it'll be next year. These are Jerusalem artichoke that I was given from Free Cycle, which they're doing well. I have to keep potting them on. At the moment I'm just keeping them alive. That's all I'm doing, because the place for them to go isn't ready yet. So they were in one pot and they got too big, so then I put them in another pot, more compost around them. Hopefully they'll last in there for a few weeks. Apparently they can go to over 2 meters tall. Well, in a tiny little pot they're already up to the best part of 70 centimeters, 80 centimeters, so I can well believe that. But they're actually going to go over here in this crate when it's finished off, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to line it with some old weed fabric, and then when I harvest the potatoes, all my compost from my potatoes is going to go into that crate, and then once that crate's half full or full, the Jerusalem artichoke will go in there, and that'll be their spot in that crate. I don't want them in the soil because apparently, well, it's not apparently, they spread massively and they can actually quickly take over to the point where they become a pest. I don't want that, so they're going to go in that crate. The apple trees are doing okay. This one had to have a damn good water the other day because it was really struggling. And it's weird because that one's in the ground and that one's in a pot. But maybe because I've been making sure I water that, I've neglected the ones that are in the ground, and I only planted them this year and it was my fault. But since I've watered it, give it a damn good soaking, and the rain out, it's looking good. The cabbages are doing alright, which I'm quite looking forward to scoffing. I thought I'd grown greyhound, but I obviously haven't because they're not pointy. They're just starting to heart up. And then I'll clear that bed out and we'll get some more salad and stuff going. It needed a good weed actually, but I was harvesting spring onions out of there the other day. The other spring onion bed is not doing too bad, but could be better. Could be better. Thankfully I've got other spring onions to scoff. Poppies are amazing, aren't they? Look at them. They're just finishing off now, but they've been awesome. Mr. B likes them too, don't you, Mr. B? Love watching the bees. Just getting jiggy with it, aren't you, Mr. B? La 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 la, getting jiggy with it.